So the Nasdaq, has it finally broken out? Well, let's take a look. I mean, it's been topping, it's been going sideways. We could either have had a sideways pattern that would ease the overbought scenario, which it did do, and it's come down and it's broken through this like triangle pattern that I'll have at the top. But let me show you how and why it's done. Now, although we closed lower yesterday, which we did, and we closed on the 23.6 Fibonacci level from in the Nasdaq. That's 28,894, as you can see. Now, obviously, overnight we have seen that the market deteriorate further and open well below its pivot point. But, and there is a big but to this, if you're trading the US stock markets, the volume comes in the US session. So, you know, you may well see when Wall Street opens that they say, well, do you know what? Let's take it back to the close and of yesterday. Let's take it back and go from there. This happens a lot on a Friday, which is why Friday trading isn't for the faint-hearted, really. You have to have some. You have to have a bit of nerves of steel to trade on a Friday, because sometimes you can lose all that you've made that week on a Friday. I can always do an update, obviously, when Wall Street opens. So let's assume that Wall Street is going to take this as a negative point, and let's assume that we stay below the pivot of 29,188. One of the things I do tell people is that if you're doing pivot points on the US markets or any futures contracts, you take it from the session. So if you're doing Dow, Wall Street, Nasdaq, S&P, take the actual data from the session open and the session closed. Don't do the 24-hour session because they don't work as well. You can use it in conjunction if you're using, you know, if you want to find out. But if you're trading these, you're better off just doing the block US open session. If we carry on lower, you've got this level here, okay? Now that's coming in at 28,201. So if the market continues lower, and the low's been today 28,400, but if it carries on and it takes out this support level, then you're going to see 27,732 quite quickly. Now, what I'm hearing and seeing and listening to all morning is that the stock markets are going to collapse and die. Well, they're not looking great, I have to tell you. But at the moment, there isn't, I would say, a pause for concern. I think the market's just had enough. It's the summer season, and it hasn't been able to break higher, and that's been the key. But there's other markets that will keep this intact as well. So let's take a look. Now, obviously, the one that everyone looks at, apart from the Nasdaq, is the S&P and the Dow. You can see that the S&P hasn't fallen quite so much, and it's still staying within. It's still staying within this consolidation phase. We can take a look. You can see where that line is coming in here. The thing with the Nasdaq is that usually I've found over the years that the Nasdaq will lead the other US stock markets. So although we're not seeing the dire move lower in the S&P like we have in the Nasdaq, that isn't to say that it's not going to fall. Now, at the moment, it's been held by the S2, and that is intersecting with the 55-day moving average, and that's coming in at 7378. So the low so far has been 7-4. Slip in 7-4-4-4. So 7-4-5-9 is, you know, it's quite an important area. The only thing I can say again is wait till the states open and see if it can maintain the downside bias that it's showing at the moment, and whether or not we can take out this S3 level at 7368, which would take us down to here, 7228. That's where I think we all ought to panic. At the moment, not panicking yet. It's Friday. I don't panic that much on a Friday at the best of times. But I think we have to keep our eye on these stock markets. And I think the last week of trading will be next week before everybody gives up and goes on their summer holidays. So all we can do really is keep our eyes on it next week and see if we can, no one wants a position in August, but we can see if we can take a little view out of this market and see whether or not it does fulfill downside potential, or it's going to stay trading sideways and then break higher. If you look at the Nasdaq, the technical indicators turned bearish from neutral levels. Looking at the S&P, it's turned bearish off of high levels. So just another little thing to point out. My name's Carol Harmer. I own Charmer Trading. Have a great afternoon.